Alright folks, this is Steve, KI5J with the J and R&H Railroad. And what we're going to do today is we're going to show you, you're looking at a project we're working on with LED signaling. So what I'm going to show you first is what you want to look for, and then I'm going to take you in real close for some extra detail. So what I want you to notice is this LED here, it's green. This LED here is green also. And then this LED is also green. So the purpose here is to illustrate what we'll be looking for in a moment when we run some cars past these sensors. Is this LED here, this one, and this one. So let me take a focus in real quick on where we're actually going to be tripping these using the sensor. So we'll be right back in a second. Okay, this is another angle, but what we're going to show you now is the electronic device that we're actually using to signal these lights, to change them from the red or green to a red state. So what I'm going to focus in on real quick is this is the actual sensor right here. This is an infrared signal that goes out a certain distance. However, it doesn't go all the way across. You can actually adjust the sensitivity range within this path that it has. So we only have it, and you've noticed it just activated as I was moving the pointer across there. So we'll let it go ahead and reset, and then we'll get in a little bit closer and I'll show you a little bit more about what's supposed to happen. Okay, now what we're going to look at is we're going to demonstrate the example of a car rolling past this sensor that I just pointed out. So I'm going to go ahead and push the car forward. Okay, notice what happened there. Now the signal went red, so it's going to stay red for a certain period of time as that car continues to move forward on the train. So now what we'll do is we'll go back and look at a different angle. Okay, so we're looking back at the first view that I showed you at the beginning of the video now. Since you have seen a picture of the sensor actuating as we rolled the car across it, I'm also going to roll the car across it again in the same manner. But what I want you to notice now is we have an LED light here. This light, when the car passes that sensor, it's going to go from green to yellow, like a caution light, a little bit further away from the actual trip point. The second light is going to go from green to red. Now this goes to red because we're much closer to the trip point. It's more of a higher alert to the engineer. So what I'm going to do, watch this light. This light will turn yellow, this one will turn red, this one will also turn red. So I'm going to roll the car, and as I roll the car, watch what happens. Okay, now we have a red light here, we have a red light here, and we have a yellow light here. So now, this brings up another point. How long do these lights stay on? Well, after the last car passes the sensor, which I pointed out previously, there is a programmable time delay from maybe 15 to 60 seconds that state will actually stay active. So what will happen is, here in a moment, since there's no car in front of the sensor passing through the sensor, both of these will turn back to their normal state. Green here. That one will turn green, and this one will turn green. So again, this is to see everything just turn green again. So what I'll do, let me go to the other side and I'll take one look. There's also a set of LEDs in the opposite direction. We'll take a look at that, and then we'll get into the details of how we build this stuff. Okay, now what I want to show you from the opposite direction, we have an LED here on the same track. This one is green. This is a flashing LED on the engine, so don't pay attention to this. This one here is also green. Now when I roll that car across that same sensor, this one's going to turn red, this one's going to turn green or yellow. So let me roll that car across, and you'll be able to see this happen. This one turned red. And this one turned yellow. And what I'll do is, let's see if we can zoom in on some of these here. We've got an opportunity here to maybe zoom in on something. Let's see if we can do it here. That's the actual green. That's the actual yellow LED there. And let's zoom over here. Been playing around with this camera, wanted to learn some of the zoom stuff. Let's see how we can do on this one here. Oops, that's a little jerky there. Sorry about that.
Good afternoon, folks. This is Ron, K5EHL. This is kind of part two of this video. Steve is our chief engineer and producer and director. He did the first part of the video showing you the application of these LED lights we're working on. We're actually picking up a little bit from a previous video, and I'll pick up on one slide that was kind of the tail end of that video. This is marking using a red Sharpie pen um, to color these LEDs. They don't have any color on them. There's no really way to identify them unless you hook them up to power. So I make a little mark with a red pen. It's out of the way. It doesn't affect the front of it, the visibility. Now, in the marking process, one of the things I find it helpful to do is to take a black pen and to mark the cathode end of the LED. The cathode is a short leg end, but the reason that I like to do this, because once you cut off the excess wire on the LED, you have no idea which one's the cathode, unless you got really good eyes. And if you got good eyes, you can look at it and there'll be a flat on the round part, the bottom of the LED. That's the cathode, but it's just a lot simpler to use a black felt tip and just mark it a little bit there. In this particular picture, I'm showing you pre-measuring the wires that you're going to use to hook the signal light up. And this again is the number 30 wire. And I usually allow about 4 inches on it. So once I get one cut, then I can cut several of them. They'll be ready to go. Showing you another view. These are the flat top LEDs, and this one's been marked. It's red, and you can see to the right the containers, how I mark the containers. I actually use a little red acrylic paint on them, makes them easy to see. We're looking at the wire wrap tool, and don't know who makes this, but they're available out there. OK Industries, I think. And there's a section of the wire that we're going to use. I'm going to show you how to strip it. Looking at stripping that wire, you have to practice a little. So just take a little time, a little wire, and you can work on doing that. I'm not sure just exactly how large a gauge this will strip, but I'm working with number 30. So a 28 gauge, possibly a 26. You'll just have to experiment. Looking at how the wire positions in there, and then you just pull the tool off the wire and it's ready to go. Now we have a good picture of the wire that's stripped. And if you're going to wire wrap, I recommend stripping about 3/4 of an inch of the insulation off, and you'll see the reason for that is the next couple of slides. We're preparing now to actually do the wrap. There is the stripped wire. It's inserted in that tool. I don't have a picture of what that looks like, but there are 2 holes there, and one of them is the feed line for the wire that you're actually going to wrap. So we'll see how this wire wrapping goes. Well, our picture's a little bit fuzzy, but you can see the LED lead is inserted in the center hole of that wire wrap tool, and then you look at the blue wire that goes into the feed hole, and what we're going to do is push the LED inserted into the tool, and then we're going to actually turn that tool and wrap it. Now we finished wrapping that one leg of the LED, and I want to point out to you that I use blue as the cathode lead. And the reason I use blue is because I don't have any black, couldn't get any of it. So I always try to put the cathode either with a blue or a black wire, and there you can see the wrap on it. Don't get too concerned about how it looks. When you wrap these things on, they're very good electrical connections. In fact, they're very difficult to get off. So just a little practice, and you'll find that you come out doing a very, very good job. Now we have the LED with both leads wrapped. And if you'll notice on the positive lead, the one on the left, I use a red wire because this is a red LED. I don't have any green wire. I use white for a green LED, but we'll show you how we make it green. But anyway, that's what it's going to kind of look like when you get through with it. And just take your time. You'll get very good at doing this. This picture is a professional secret, or how I make the white wire green, but I only need to color the lower end of the wire. Don't need to do the whole thing, but I know that the white wire is green, and now I've got the green on it. So if I forget, I come back, it's done. And this is just a paint pen, but you can color it with any green acrylic paint with a little brush. We're looking at a green and a red LED um, flat top, and they are ready almost to be mounted. So this is what you should wind up with when you get through with the wire wrapping. Now this is strictly wire wrapping. We'll may have another slide in here where we've actually soldered the wires on. A little different procedure for that though. We're at the point now that we're ready to install those LEDs, and this is the Bachmann signal light. We're using a drill to size it out. Keep in mind, this plastic is very soft. If you're using a standard drill bit, it will have the tendency to grab. It's best to use a variable speed drill. That way you can control your speed and you can control the light. Now this hole's already been pre-drilled, but you may have to clean it out a little bit, and that's what we're really doing here. In this view, we're using a smaller drill bit, pre-drilling, and I like to use either 2 to 3 drill bit sizes so that I can graduate up to the appropriate size. Now, if you drill this out too big, then you really do have a problem. So it's best to take your time and look at your drill bits available and just follow your instinct on it. In this view, we're showing the LEDs mounted. So I'm going to take a little bit of time to talk about this. If you have a device that's called a third hand that you can clip this the base signal light onto, it makes it a little bit easier. Otherwise, you've got to sort of secure this. When those LEDs go in, and it depends on whether you're using the flat top or a round top, it depends on who the manufacturer was. On the flat top LEDs, the ones that I use, there is a flange stop, I call it, on the back of the LED. It's probably is made to fit into a certain component, and it's about 32nd of an inch thick all the way around. It stops it. So on this particular ones, I have to take a little bit bigger size drill bit that equals those dimensions, and just by hand I go in and ream that out just enough for that LED will go flush in there. We're going to start another video. We're just about out of time, and from that other video we'll continue on from this point. So I hope you've enjoyed it. This is Ron, JNRH Railroad, K5EHL, Abilene, Texas.